share my screen here. Okay, perfect. And if anyone has any questions at any point, please feel free to stop me as usual. So good. So I guess three main updates that we wanted to go over today before we open up to Q&A. First, I want to go over the app competition for April, and then release 205 went out last Sunday to all production instances. So there were a couple of interesting updates that make app building faster, more streamlined that we wanted to share. But starting from the app competition, we're about actually exactly halfway through the month, and there haven't been many entries. So if folks right now are interested in participating, feel free, submit your entry, and you have a pretty good chance of winning, because for now, we're not going to give John, this is John who leads Tulip Education, has submitted something, but he already has one of these water bottles. So if anybody's used table queries, or even if it's not, if you haven't used them, if you have an idea of how it could be used, well, feel free to submit an entry, because you have a pretty good chance of winning this this cool water bottle. And I'll send the link here so everybody has it. Okay, but anyways, back into the more exciting parts. So release 205 went out. Let me open up the release notes here. On Sunday, like I mentioned, to all production instances. And there were quite a few interesting updates that I think make, so actually, let's just go over this one here. I don't know if folks are using the record history widget, but there have been some improvements to it. It works a little bit better. It's more functionality. You can kind of decide what, and here I can just actually share some of these improvements, because I think it's interesting. But basically, when you go to embed a record history, you'll see that now you have all these additional controls here that we didn't have them before. So you can sort, you can decide the sort direction, you can decide, oh no, this one we actually already had before. And then you have these toggles here that display or omit certain data, such as the your values, the process data, so the app completion data, and or only to see the sign completion. So it's just kind of the record history has been in the product now for a couple of months, but as with lots of things in Tulip, we continuously go updating them. So I wanted to share that we went through and added a couple of upgrades to that.
Gio,
Yeah.
do we have to update it ourselves, or automatically that's going to be updated?
No. So the releases are updated automatically. So every Sunday night, Tulip goes through and updates your instance. Every 2 weeks on Sunday night, we release all these features to your instance.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. So it stays up to date with the latest features always. Okay, so continuing on, and I think a couple more folks joined. Hey Chris, hey Guy. So the other updates that I wanted to share was the fact where some of these new triggers. So if people are familiar, in Tulip before, you often had to complete something if you wanted to reset all the variables to their defaults, or you had to clear the variables, or there were other things you had to do. Whereas now we added a button so that if you have a bunch of variables in your app, like we have here, and you just click the reset all app variables to defaults, as you can see, it's pretty descriptive action that just resets everything back to the defaults. So if you want to see this trigger is dead simple, it's only one action, just data manipulation, whereas before we had all these clear, decrement, increment, store. Now we also have the reset all app variables to defaults. And of course, if your app variable defaults are not blanks like they are in my app, they will restore back to whatever you have set in the default for your app variables. So for example, here, if if I come in here and I set this default to hello world, and then I open up the player again, I say ABC 1, 2, 3. I'll put in the date, reset to default. So you'll see that the goes back to hello world. So just a simple little addition, but I think there's lots of cases in which this makes app building a lot faster and simpler. And the other trigger, oh, sorry, did someone have a question? No, okay. The other trigger that was added that I think is quite interesting is this save all app data. So basically, you think about it as it working exactly the same way as a complete, but instead of completing and then going back to the first step, or you having to manually select where to go to, this just stays where you are within the app, completes, stores all stores all the data, adds a completion record, but then it lets you continue without kind of interfering with the whole workflow. So here I have all the completions, as you can see. There's nothing for April 15th. If I click save all app data, we're still in the same step. It looks like nothing is happening really, because it's not like it's completing and going back to the start. But now if I go back into the completions here, and I refresh the completions, you'll see that there's several should be several completion. I don't know why they're not showing up for the 15th, but anyways, it stores all the data. Maybe yesterday I modified the trigger, but it just saves all the data. So I wanted to mention that. So then the other interesting update was clearing all record placeholders. So again, this is another quite descriptive trigger, but basically just kind of, these are 2 record placeholders that we have within our app. So once I click clear all record placeholders, you can see just, it's not like it deletes the data from the tables, the data is still there. It just clears the record placeholder within the app. So now, it's kind of unloads them, if you will, or it clears them from the placeholder in the app. Okay, folks, by the way, started using any of these features, or do you guys have any questions about them?
I have a question, but it's kind of future facing. My name is Guy Hanley. I run kind of West Coast implementations. I'm not sure I've met any of you on the call, but just wanted to say hello. And what I'm seeing as a request with the new Vision application that's in beta is how can we do some of this stuff with essentially like a hand hover or something like that. That's not even a click, right?
Yeah.
It's actually just a hand motion. I don't know if that's a future facing discussion like 6 months from now, or if we feel like we are there with the Vision product and should start to have that discussion. But just was curious what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I mean, has anyone here in the call already started using Vision?
If not, I do have some resources I can share that really have the 3 primary use cases that we're seeing are very doable today, and this is kind of, it is a beta product, right? So there, with the people on this call, you may find 10 more, but we feel like there are 3 really strong applications for Vision today. And if you guys don't have this information, I can make sure that I get it sent out to you.
Yeah, that would be awesome. But so I guess to answer your first question, yeah, I think it certainly is possible. Like you mentioned, it is in beta, still Vision, but it's been out already for a couple. I think it was January. So it's been out for a couple months. Especially something as simple. I think those 2 were jig detection and change detection. So those 2 use cases in which you have a hand that goes into a zone that you define, or something like that to control a trigger is certainly doable. You know what? Actually, I should probably prepare a quick demo that would be useful to share in one of the upcoming office hours. because it is interesting, you know, a lot of these use cases to help simplify, you know, without even having to click the button is quite good. But essentially, it's this one here that there's a support article for, which, you
I
know,
can add to that as well. I don't know if we can share it, but we do have an internal enablement call that is recorded that is talking about vision and some of the applications. So my guess is I could probably share at least part of that with you guys. And yeah, you're showing some of the frameworks here, but one of the ones I'm most excited about with customers is eliminating the need for like a real life Pictolite and actually having a virtual Pictolite that accomplishes the same goal without really needing IoT connectivity necessarily, right?
Yeah.
You can still see, okay, this person's taking the wrong item, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm seeing their hand go into a location and it's going red. Like, we know that they selected the wrong subcomponent in the assembly. In the same way, right? And we could potentially work with the operator as well on that side. I don't know if that's the best solution, but we are getting requests for that type of discussion.
No, yeah. Thanks for sharing, Guy. That's great. I guess I should first of all frame it because, you know, kind of, I don't know if here everybody here is familiar with Vision, but basically it's a new product that was released, like I said, in January, and it allows for, you know, you can set up a vision system, integrate it within Tulip, and write triggers the way you're used to, you know, just really simple drop downs. But instead of just using button clicks or device outputs or things like that, you can just use whatever the camera is outputting. So like you can see here, you can set region of interest. You can say, okay, when somebody puts their hand into this bin, then do something. And that's the use case that Guy was describing, you know, where you have a Pictolite without actually having like a red LED that lights up. You know, it's just really easy. It's like on the tablet itself. You can see, okay, if an operator reaches in to the wrong bin, you can just go back to the previous step. Say like, whoa, like, please return that part and pick the correct one, something like that. So it's really quite interesting. You know, you can use it today. All you need is a simple camera, and I think we have a list of the recommended, but they're like super cheap ones that you can buy on Amazon. And here, actually, this is Kaylee wrote this article. Yeah, they're like, you know, super simple cameras you can just buy, set up all of your, you know, you go here into the vision tab, set up your regions of interest. You know, you kind of there's a whole like wizard that you walk through, but you know, you can kind of like define, okay, this is my bin 1, bin 2, bin 3, the regions of interest. You can define what triggers what, and it's, you know, it actually be interesting to see what folks build if you guys want to share in the coming weeks. But I also I've taken note to do a demo in the upcoming office hours. Does anyone have any questions actually about Vision?
I mean, I'll weigh in here, right? I think we need to look for simple, right? And then that's probably a vague term. Like, I'll give you an example. I have a customer that has, they're trying to set up a 2000 subcomponent Pictolite for like, you know, something like 5 to 10 kitters. That makes my head almost explode, right? In terms of even doing a wall, right? A wall LED solution, like that's like a wall of components. I don't think I don't think Vision would be a good solution for that, just because of the number of choices. I think that would be more of an LED use case.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, you know, do we feel like with AR, you know, a year from now, that's potentially something we could do, or is that like way out of the realm of possibility?
I mean, you know, I guess, I mean, I don't know that much, but like 2000 bins sounds like a lot of bins. I guess, what is actually the problem that they're trying to solve for? Is it just that people are picking the wrong part, or is it?
Correct, right? So like I think the easiest solve is only give the assemblers the exact parts that they need for a custom, like upstream. Basically, what's happening is a custom work order is getting created by the sales team, right? Before production even starts. That custom work order is getting generated into a production work order. And then that's where all the problems happen, right? Like if you don't have dynamic work instructions from there and you give assemblers access to every single subcomponent when they only need 12, right? Instead of 2000,
Yeah.
the error rate skyrockets, right? So, and what they're seeing is something like a 20% plus error rate in the assembly of, these goods. And they think that it's very impressive to have a 10-day turnaround time. I feel like they could have like a 1 to 3 day turnaround time if they fix this problem. So, I mean, like the ROI is obvious, but it's a complex problem because the upstream process is in many ways creating a downstream process that is fraught with errors.
Yeah. No, it's when there's high mix environments like that, it can certainly be, there's like a lot of like, I guess, low hanging fruit in which, building the right app in Tulip can like yield good improvements pretty quickly. I think it's also important to just kind of define the problem well. Like, sometimes it's like, do you need like advanced things such as they are, maybe like, I don't know if these parts have these bins have barcodes on them or something that can just be scanned. Sometimes simple solutions are the best ones in my opinion. So I think that's one thing to bear in mind.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, this is Chris Winters from Fair Process Solutions.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, so it's sounding like your operators are doing a bomb build. They're picking parts for a bomb.
Correct.
So that was gonna, Gio already said the question I was getting ready to ask is, are there barcodes on the bins that they're picking from?
Well, this customer is like probably the worst example of a digital transformation because it's like it's taking them from, we're trying to take them from the Flintstones to the Jetsons, basically. Like they're using like a nightmare access database to generate so I won't even get started with the backend because it's a nightmare. But let's say we fix that problem. I still think there's an issue with their actual process flow that we need to have a detailed discussion with them on, because even if we fix the back end piece and we connect data to essentially a SQL, we're basically going to do a one-to-one connection between a SQL database and Tulip tables. So I feel like that's a pretty elegant solution for where they're starting. But the dynamic work instructions piece is just one part, right? There's also imagine there's no visualization software, there's no there's no templates or thin clients in front of the operator. They're looking at paper. I think I'm more just interested I don't want to monopolize the call here, but I appreciate your guys' advice on these types of situations.
Well, I was just talking about working congruently with the new camera feature in the vision system of you can direct the operator to pick from, it'll light up that bin green on their tablet of where the bin is at on the wall. And then you can do a quality assurance verification by them being able to scan the code and verify that that's the right part.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all I was going into. It was more so drawing back to the cool vision stuff, because I really like where that's going, and the use cases for that are a mile wide. But it's also not just in using the vision; it's also building in and poke-yoking the process to where it's not passive avoidance for quality anymore. They can't passively avoid it; they have to actively avoid it, and that's a different type of driver for a discussion with the workforce.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I agree with you, Giovanni. The only reason I'm asking is I don't like using hardware if I don't have to, right? And the constant question I have is I feel like some of these basic vision applications are a cheaper solution than using LEDs and some of these direct connection solutions to the same problem. So yeah, if it's not cheaper and better, then I wouldn't suggest it in the first place, right? But
I think that's a good approach. I think it's unnecessary to use technologies for technology's sake. I think it's, if there's this kind of, my approach is just use the simplest solution you can to solve the problem as best you can, kind of in the story. So but yeah, it was interesting. Thanks for sharing. I guess we do want to get through a couple of updates and then want to open up to any user questions. So The other updates that were released in 205 that I thought were quite interesting is, within your instance, you can actually set quite a few settings that users often just leave to the defaults, but I think are quite good. So for example, if you log out, you have this simple thing that basically you can choose whether to mask the badge ID or not, so as I go switching between the two, it just hides it or doesn't hide. So, it's quite simple, but it's just, I think it's good to know, and a lot of users leave it to the defaults, which I believe shows it by default, but I think that's just a good thing to know. Another one is the show error. So there was actually, I saw somebody asking about this just yesterday, but here I'm just clicking the button and it's showing an error. Sometimes this can be cumbersome for the users. So you can come in here, just toggle this switch here, and then when I click it, it doesn't show up. So it's to be careful when to use it, because if there's an error message showing up, especially if you're building the application, it's good to know about the error, and it's often quite descriptive. So it's good to know why it's showing up, but it's also good to know that you can toggle it as needed when you need to. And then the other one is, again, it's completions. You can either have the little toast here show up when the app completes, or if you click this, you hide it, you click it, it's still completing, it's saving all the data, but the toast is not showing up, so it's not obstructing with the interface that the users have. So these are just some of the settings that you can set for your whole instance for the player that I thought were quite interested in 205. We released a couple of additional ones, including, I think this one here went out with 205, where you can define how many minutes after an activity you sign the users out. So I think it's something interesting if you have tablets that are sitting around and you don't want somebody, unless they're signed in, to use it. You want to sign them out, you can say, okay, after a minute, just sign them out. And then you don't have to worry about people who aren't authorized using the tablets. Awesome. So I guess now with that, I wanted to open up to any questions that users had, either about these new features, about anything you've been building, or if there's something that you want to share that you've built, you want to get some feedback on. We're happy. If not, Ishmael, we can get into your questions that you had. Or I guess more
Thank
than.
you.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Nothing, I just said thank you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so in that case, I guess if no one else has questions, we can get right into it. So was it, I guess maybe you can share with everybody else, because I don't think most of the folks are on the call. What is it specifically that you want to learn, Ishmael? And yeah, what component of the platform?
Well, basically some of the connectors and tables that Eddie already made, I have them in front of me in some cases. Half of them make sense to me, but I do not have enough knowledge to start creating one on my own pages, on my own steps.
Okay, and so did you say connectors or tables or both?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Mostly connectors.
Mostly connectors. Yeah, because if I remember correctly, Eddie had connected to, was it NetSuite that you guys use?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Good memory.
Yeah. Thanks. No, because I remember there was it Evan as well, who I think supported with some of that integration.
I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah.
Yes, it was Evan.
It was Evan, right? Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was.
It was, okay. So but basically, I mean, I guess I can get started. If I were you, to be honest, if you haven't set up a connector yet, I would go into university here. There's a course on, where is it? HTTP and SQL connectors. This one here.
Which one? Okay.
Yeah, I can send the link if it's useful.
Yeah,
Um,
I appreciate it if you send me one.
yeah. Yeah, so it's not really, a lot of the other courses in university are kind of like pretty like use case specific, where like you build something and you follow along with the instructor. This one's just kind of like, it informs you of like how to set them up and everything. If you want to do a guide, there's actually also another really good resource that is this one here. Oh yeah, that's the one that Kaylee just shared is a good one.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and then I guess the last one, and then I'll start describing a little bit better. Is this one here? This is an example one that you can basically set up a connector to an API that gives you the weather, but it doesn't really matter if it's the weather or if it's a work order from NetSuite. The principles that you learn through this guide are very transferable. So once you know how to connect to any REST service, it's quite easy actually to just once you create the correct authentication to connect to different services.
Right. These are all good materials to start with for now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are good, and I think like with most of Tulip, components within the Tulip platform, the best way to learn is just by doing. So start with that weather example, then find another one that I always like to use as well. As there's this one here called IEX, and basically gives you real-time stock prices. So again, it doesn't really matter that you're getting stock prices. You could be getting stock prices or work order information or bill of material information from NetSuite. This is just, this basically you connect to the system. You say, okay, I want to know the last price of Apple, and then it returns you back, says, okay, Apple now it's trading at X number of dollars on NASDAQ. And so, it's the more of these you do, the better you understand how connectors work. They're really quite simple. You just go into connectors, you create a connector, you enter the information, the name, the connector type, either a SQL database or an HTTP connector. And then once you have that set up, you kind of set up all these details that, all those guides that we share walk you through them, so where it's running, the host, the port. If you have authentication, you can come here and set it up over here. And then you can write functions. So basically the functions is you define what's called the endpoint. So, okay, what is this one doing? This one, Google is pretty descriptive. So it's getting a batch of data that, this one is a Google Sheet connector. So it's getting back all the information that is stored in Google Sheets. So I guess now just describing that in 5 minutes, it probably sounds like a lot of information, but after you go through those guides, I think you'll have a pretty good idea of how it works. And I guess the last thing that I will mention is that another good way of learning is if you just come here into the Tulip library and you get an app that has a connector. So for example, this one here, Google geolocation. So when I come here to install it, you'll see that the connector also comes into my instance. So just to learn, that's a good way to kind of, because this was built by a team at Tulip. So they, you'll see now here I have the, I don't know if it's called Google.
I think the import failed, Gio.
Oh, did it really? Did you see the error message?
No, I just said import failed.
Okay, because I have a strange instance. Okay, no problem. But anyways, once you do normally import it on your instances, it will work. Then the connector will come in as well, and you'll be able to learn that. So for example, I had imported the Google Sheets one, and that one. This is where all this came from. This came from the library, so it's good to just kind of take a look and see how it works.
Thank you, Gio. I will start these and review them, and then I'm sure I'm gonna stop bugging you guys.
Yeah. Feel free whenever you have questions, post on the community or join these office hours. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and I'll also speak with Evan because I think he's the one that set it up at your facility. So I'm sure he has some good insight.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Are there any other questions that folks had, or things that would be good to cover, or things you've built that you'd like to share? Okay, it's going to be short this week then. If nobody has questions.
Actually, Gio, I have a question.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, it took me a minute to get to my mic.
No problem.
With the openness of the backend connectors, I know you guys have done a connection to Onshape, but I guess it's a really big cookie. Do you know if there's going to be a knowledge-based article about walking through connecting to specific types of other Onshape, like online platforms? Because you have to get an OA authorization certification built as one connector, and then you have to do the regular connector. I guess it's from a low code aspect that I attack things at. I guess is there a better way do you know if there'll be a knowledge-based article related to sites where you have to do OA certification to connect to the API?
Yeah, so I don't know if, to be honest, we're gonna, something like that. I would predict that, kind of the same way that we have like this Google geolocation unit test one, that we'll be adding more and more. For example, last release, I think it was, we added the NetSuite one.
Mhm.
So, a lot of like these web services, like Onshape, like you're describing, I would expect it to be, and it might already be in the backlog. And if it's not, I'll be sure to have it added. But I think more realistically, you'll see it in a Tulip library app, and then at that point you can just install it and see it in your instance and see how it works there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just I was excited about it. I saw it in that was the first cloud platform I ever touched, and ever since I started working with you guys, I've been waiting for that merger, and I know that it's in there now, but it's just I started to attempt, and then I was like, I got scared.
Yeah, no. Nah, you shouldn't be scared. I'm sure you have all the tools to tackle it. But the Onshape, yeah, and if it's just the OAuth 2.0 that you want to tackle, a lot of these other, for example, actually the Google one uses OAuth 2.0. So if you want to go here, you can actually look at how it's done here, just for reference for learning.
Okay.
Right? It's a bit different from the Onshape one, of course, but
Yeah.
the principles are the same. You can kind of like
Okay.
come in here and yeah, but I can actually and what would it be to return? What kind of information are you looking to get?
Onshape is it's the first cloud platform.
Yeah, for 3D modeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so would you like to get back like bill of materials or like actual drawings?
Actually, it's kind of goofy. You guys already have the connector for Google Sheets. So I use OpenBOM. There's OpenBOM, and then there's Google Sheets. Already has a connector inside of Tulip. I was looking at more so bringing over drawings and models.
Drawings and models. Okay, yeah. Actually, now that I'm thinking, there is a customer who's done this before, and we helped out. And this was probably like maybe some point last summer or something like that. But I can put you in touch. Somebody from Tulip, who you may know, Josh Richard, I remember helped out with this, and so I'm sure he can kind of give you, at least get you started in the right direction. If that's
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
We've already done the successful thing of turning on the CAD file and being able to pull that from tables. I guess the only thing with the CAD file option is that being able to add down from the variable, making a table function added to that. Because right now it's static. You can only import one, and then you have to I put that in the community under the Wizards and Bunnies thing.
Yeah, I remember that. It was great. Yeah, I remember that story. That was, yeah. Okay, I see what you mean. So it's either static or you can put a
You can make it a variable, but you have it's the long road. There's not a drop down in tables yet for a CAD file.
Yeah. Yeah, this one here. Yeah, I remember this was great.
Yeah, the Wizards and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Chris,
wow. Yeah, you got quite a few likes.
Chris, to answer your original question about the documentation piece, I think our Onshape unit test is going in the library app in 2 weeks in our next release. And I'm pretty sure, and by pretty sure, I'm like 90% confident that we'll have a knowledge base article that comes along with it.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I do think that you should get that pretty soon.
Cool. I know you guys are juggling like 7 stones at once every release, so you know, it's just asking those questions of seeing like, is there going to be a knowledge base article? Because when those are put down, the release notes are great, but the knowledge base articles really kind of dig into it more of getting a use case put into your app and actually letting it flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and actually, if Chris, if you're interested in kind of submitting, the library team is always open to feedback. If I guess Onshape is already in the backlog, so that one's not really interesting. But if there's something that you'd like us to consider building, there's a whole team at Tulip of app builders who build these apps for you. So if there's something else that you would, whether it's an app like a unit test, like to Onshape, or some other use case that you often see that you think would be a good addition to the library, feel free to post them here, because it's the team is definitely wants this to be kind of a collaborative thing in which we, from the feedback that we get from users, that's what gets built.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Anything else that folks wanted to share or questions that you guys had? Okay. Well, perfect. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining. Next week is not going to be release week, so can't remember exactly what's in the schedule, but we'll be going through some updates. But if there's something that you would like for us to cover, that we have some time to prepare, feel free to send us an email or post in community, and we can have it added to the agenda. But yeah, awesome. Thanks everybody for joining. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll see everybody soon.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Everyone.
Awesome. Thanks.